At Believe, our mission is to develop recording artists and labels in the digital world. We believe that the best way to accomplish our mission is to provide them the solutions they need to grow their audience at each stage of their career. Streaming has changed how people discover music, paving the way for the rise of independent artists and labels. With digital, a new generations of millions of aspiring artists can now take their music to the world with TuneCore. In this decade, more artists than ever will find a path to make a living of their art, freely and independently. Digital is changing the way artists are developed. Thousands of artists and labels are now using Believe's technology platform, innovative digital solutions, and relying on the expertise of our local teams in 50 countries. To our 1,500 Believers, continue to learn and be inspired by the many artists whose careers you're contributing to elevate, and be proud of the labels you've helped develop in the past 15 years. To artists and labels, we thank you for trusting us with your creative life, with your digital business. Your independence, your power, and your freedom is our strength. We believe in you. To our digital partners, your unwavering engagement by our side propels us forward. To our new shareholders, your investment will support the development of our talent, our technology platform, and the acquisition of new capabilities. Together, let's shape a respectful, diverse, fair, and transparent future for independent artists and labels. Thank you.
Dolby Atmos is changing the way music is heard, blowing away stereo with music that moves, soundscapes that electrify, and artists making music like you've never heard before.
Oh, hi, it's you. Welcome back to the Music Makers Academy. We have missed you all. As a reminder, the Music Makers Academy is a series of events designed to help build a foundation for musicians and the next generation of business leaders to learn and upskill through the mentorship and knowledge sharing of some global industry icons. Whether you are an artist or you're an executive, it has never been a more exciting time to be in the music business today. You could be an artist or a manager wanting to get noticed. You could be an exec looking to learn about other areas of the business, or just plain interested in the music industry. The Music Matters Academy is the business of music taught by the music business. Or maybe it's the other way around. Our first two modules covered publishing and platforms. They have been watched by over 30,000 people so far. Today is all about marketing, getting the word out, getting noticed. And later in the series, we are moving to artist management, entertainment law, live streaming and touring, and the very, very important topic of mental health and well-being, plus working with brands, advertisers, and agencies. All of our content is virtual, it's live, and it's fireside. So we also want to hear from you as well. So if you're watching live today, please, please, please ask questions. We've got some amazing speakers all through the day. And then there are also, after the sessions, smaller private groups where you can meet the speakers and ask them more personal questions. So you need to sign up for those. I think they're filling fast if they're not full already. But you'll get some information about that at the end of the session. Finally, as you will have noticed already, the Music Makers Academy is free to attend, and that is 100% thank you. Thanks to our sponsors and to our partners, YouTube and Believe, plus support from the wonderful Dolby and Steinberg Protocol. So thank you for joining. Please enjoy, please learn, and don't forget to get your questions in, because today is all about marketing. You've written a song, you've recorded a track, you've produced a video, plus you're maybe planning to tour, but that's only half the battle. If you don't have a community or fan base, then it's really hard to get anywhere or succeed because the fans aren't automatically going to come to you. So today's Academy content is all about getting noticed, building a fan base, staying connected to your communities. And what a great lineup today with music companies, artist managers, platforms, influence agencies, and one of Asia's most successful creators. Talking about just that, how to build an audience and keep them. It's not easy. So please listen in and take notes. And as I said before, please do get your questions in. This is your chance. Remember, as I said, after this session, you can meet the speakers on a first come, first served basis. The details are on the Music Academy site. So on with the show. Our first session features two amazing speakers and a brilliant moderator. Eugene Lee, the CEO of Collab Asia, one of Asia's best known influencer agencies, along with the head of the brilliantly named company What the Duck in Thailand. To interview them, we have Angel Lee, who has just started working for the music team at Netflix, but will want to be, well, she was also a musician and an ex-music publisher. So Angel, welcome to the Music Masters Academy. Thank you so much for joining us today. I've got one question for you. Before I hand over, so Netflix has a new music department. What's your role in Netflix Music?
Thanks for having me, Jasper. Yes, so this is a new role out of APAC called Marketing Music. And the team that I oversee actually looks after all things music for Netflix marketing, and it helps create great conversations with the fans.
Fantastic. Well, good luck with the role. What an amazing company to be working with. I'm going to hand over to you to take on the rest of the session. Good luck and have some fun.
Thanks, Jasper. Thanks everybody for tuning in this morning. I'm dialing in from Singapore, and first up we have Moi from What the Duck. Good morning,
Hi.
Moi.
Morning.
Thanks so much for joining us this morning. So a lot of the audience here would love to hear more from you. So tell us a little bit more about yourself, where you're dialing from, and what do you do?
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Moi Tonsompong. I'm a managing director at What the Duck music label, and we're based in Bangkok, Thailand. What the Duck is a independent music label, and we've been around in the music business for like 7 years now. We have about 20 artists under What the Duck, and last year we just launched the sub label called Mill. So Mill is much more focused on like young musician, and indie. It's more like alternative and indie stuff. And yeah, and for myself, before I started What the Duck, I used to work with EMI Music before, and also work with some other local music label here in Bangkok. So basically, I've been working in the music industry about almost 20 years now. And as a managing director, as a record company, so basically, you just have to make sure that every department within your company runs smooth, and nowadays I've been more focused on like marketing team, try to make sure that any marketing plan or campaign that we run for the artist is a right fit for the artist as well. So basically just have to keep everyone happy. If the artist is happy, I'm happy, our partner happy. So yeah, just have to keep everyone happy. That's really my job.
That's amazing. Could you share a little bit more about which artists you work with, and how do you also work with your artists?
Wow, as a, I've been, we have about like 20 artists under What the Duck, and I've been working with a lot of artists nowadays. And how do you work with artists? That's the really big question, I think, because it's really depend on which artist you're working with. Is very, because everyone have their own character, everyone have their own need. So what I do is just try to understand their attitude, their vision. So nowadays, how to work with the artists, I think as a record label, we would be more like a follower. We follow their creativity, their vision, and then we just provide our support around those ideas to make sure that your artists get 100% support from the record label. And also another factor that's, I think, is a key to work with the artist is we have to trust each other. I think is a key, because you in it together. It's kind of like, it's very long journey that you have to work together. So sometimes you have to make sure that you get everyone in the same page. We want the same thing. The only thing that we want, so you want you to be success. So we have to believe in each other and work together, and we become a great team. That's how I work with the artists.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, it kind of sounds like you have a really close relationship with the artists and the kind of inputs that you help them with. So it kind of goes back to Jasper's question, right? So the great artist has recorded an amazing song or amazing album. Like, how do we move on to the next steps of marketing and building fan base and community? Would you be able to kind of talk us through that process of how do you guys build fan base and community that way?
I think, yeah, sure. As Jasper mentioned earlier, that like you've done your music video, but that's just the beginning, right? So how you got to get noticed from record label or those mass media, that's another story. So my advice is like you just have to start working by yourself first. You have to be able to any kind of social media platform. You have to be you have to make noise on digital or online, and also you have to also making some offline activity as well. And then you have to keep doing it. And then if you make it loud enough, they will come to you, record label, music promoter, media. They will come to you. But one more thing to have to keep it in mind, that you have to be prepared for failure. It will happen for sure, because it's a part of your journey. So be prepared for that as well. It's a long game, it's a long journey. So be prepared for failure. It's a tough business.
True, that's really great advice. I think more people need to hear that actually failure is not the end all, but it's actually part of the journey, right?
Yes, definitely.
Fantastic. And obviously, we've heard from a lot of artists that they had to pivot during the pandemic, especially where there, traditionally there was a lot more building of community through live shows, for example. So what are your thoughts about pivoting through the pandemic, and on hindsight, have you done some things differently that you can share with some of the audiences here?
Yeah, it's very difficult for this kind of circumstance that we have right now. So there's no show business, and especially for those young musicians that they need to perform and where they get their fan base. So what I have done during the pandemic, so we try to create something online. So I'm not very good at it, but I have to try to, and then you have to keep convince or let your artist try to do something online. Some of the artists, they kind of like, oh, I don't know what can I do there, what can I post it, or what we're gonna do. But look, you can't just really like sit down and hope that COVID is gonna gone soon. So you have to be active on the social media. That again, so maybe try something, maybe doing some live performance, it doesn't have to be like a proper setup. You can do like, you know, acoustic set, or some of the artists that I learned, they're not even doing live, so they're doing like kind of like Q&A, try to keep your connection with your fan. That's how you have to stay active in this kind of circumstance. That's was my advice.
Okay, cool. I mean, sounds pretty good. That I guess like a lot of artists has to be a bit more creative and trying to keep that connection with the fan base.
Yeah, that's a key, I think.
And how important is authenticity to you with regards to artists and fans?
This is very important because, you know, nowadays it's very easy to become an artist. You can do everything by yourself. You can do like self release. You're making music by yourself, making a video by yourself. But if you want to make it happen, if you want to have a career in music business, so you have to be honest with yourself. Your music have to really come from you, come inside you, and be yourself, and just have to keep doing what you believe to, because at the end of the day, your audience will know, because what they believe in you. So you have to take, apart from the you making music, so you are the storyteller, so they believe in you, so you have to keep honest with yourself. That's very
Wonderful.
important. Yeah.
And out of curiosity, how do you measure success then for an artist?
Oh, that really depend, really. I mean, you know, because some of the artists that I work with, they just want to, you know, doing music, like what they want to do, doing a proper release, having very good music video, and then that's it. When they release the song, and then they come to me and then, wow, this I'm already success. But some of them is like, oh, I want to be famous, I want to be a superstar, I want to make a living of the music industry. So that's another story. So I think the measure of success is really depend on the artist, and depend on your goal, like where you want to be. Yeah.
So it really depends on the artist's vision and where do you want to take it to, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like a real authentic partnership that way. So you've seen a lot of different artists done it right and also get it wrong sometimes. Like, would you be able to kind of talk us through like where are artists getting it right, and where are artists not hitting the mark in your opinion?
I think that the one thing that I think, or the young musician, or the musician that just start the career, they make a mistake about, they hurry, they when you're making a music and you're very exciting about it, and then you call your distributor like, oh, I make really good record, and then I want to drop it tomorrow, I want to drop it now, it's so awesome. That's wrong. You can't do that. I mean, if you want to make a career in music business, because there are many steps for you, and there's a lot of people would love to help you. So especially when you are really like developing artists or emerging artists, so you need to let people that work for you some time to work it. Maybe a few weeks, like 2 or 3 weeks, to let them doing a proper setup, proper release date, proper strategy. Because as a young musician, and then when you release the music out in the market, so I think you have only maybe 1 or 2 weeks, and then if you're not making it, it's gone. They're gonna take you from the top shelf, so I always tell the artist that when you're making a music, which is very hard enough, and then you have to be patient a little bit before you launching your music. You have to make sure that all the box that you have to tick all the box. You have to make sure that you have a proper a band photo, you have a proper
Mhm.
title of your band, your profile. You have to do all those small details as well before you launching your music.
Right.
That's
Right, that is good advice, and I'm sure a lot of there's a lot of musicians in our audiences today that really benefit from that, especially when you created something amazing. Hold your horses, don't release it just
exactly.
yet. Just make sure you get a strategy and a marketing plan in place before we release it to all the fan base. So thank you for that real insight, and thank you for spending time with us. So before we let Moy go, I just want to remind everybody that you can send in your questions in. And Moy will be back later to answer them for you. So thank you so much, Moy. And then up next, we have Eugene. Hi, Eugene. Can you hear us okay? I think it's on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Thanks
Okay,
for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us a bit more about yourself. Where you're dialing in from. What do you do?
Yeah, hi. I'm actually dialing in from Seoul, South Korea, but I'm actually originally from Los Angeles. I've been out here in Asia for the past 4 years. I am leading a startup. I'm the CEO of Collab Asia. We are a YouTube certified multi-channel network, and we are also an influencer marketing agency. We currently work with about 1,900 creators and influencers and manage about 1,900 YouTube channels. We also have a fast-growing music side of our business. In addition to working with independent labels, K-pop artists, we also manage about 40,000 sound recordings in our library. So we do what we call digital rights management, a lot of DRM for YouTube. Obviously YouTube is a unique platform where it's not just you distribute onto the platform and leave it. You actually do need to do a lot of rights management and day-to-day management.
Very cool. So I know there's a lot of young executives that would love to hear more about your journey and how you get to do what you love. Would you be able to share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. So, my background has always been in the media business, and probably about 7-8 years ago, I slowly but surely started gravitating towards the digital media side of things. And I think when it comes to all the platforms out there, YouTube is one of the significant ones when it comes to digital. And I'm not just saying that because YouTube is a sponsor. But yeah, they're a great partner for us. And especially when it comes to music, the IFPI said that 47% of all music streamed worldwide is done and consumed over YouTube. So with YouTube, I think it's, I don't even consider it a platform or a social media platform anymore. It's almost just like the internet, the video internet. And so for all musicians, obviously, I think YouTube is a big part of what they're how they can reach and connect with fans. But I think there's still a lot kind of behind the scenes of kind of the YouTube platform that maybe some artists and musicians don't really realize.
Wow, that's amazing. So you work with so many different kinds of creators across the different genres as well. So let's talk about building fan base and community, because you work with such a wide variety of them. Like, is there a specific kind of roadmap, or you kind of look at which kind of vertical they're at and then you kind of do that differently?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit different depending on the creator. So we work with gamers, we work with vloggers, and of course we work with musicians. I think what's key is really, especially with YouTube and all the other social media platforms out there, there's just so much data available nowadays, right? Very different from maybe kind of 20, 30 years ago when creators or musicians just kind of put something out there and maybe didn't get a lot of the data in return. But now what's great is, if anything, there's probably too much data now. So there's a lot of feedback coming in, and that's something that we also help our our creators and our musicians with is how to kind of sift through all that data that's available and then really gain some valuable insights. I think that's really important.
Very cool. And is there, I guess, like, because, you know, data obviously is a big word. Would you be able to kind of share a little bit more specifics in terms of like maybe an example that you've had in a certain data set that kind of helped with the artist?
Yeah, sure. I mean, you know, one of the things as I mentioned is as we work with musicians, you know, especially a lot of the music will get re-uploaded by fans, right? People will maybe do a dance cover or they'll include it in the background. So that's actually a really valuable source of data to be able to see who is re-uploading your song. And then we can actually get insights into who's actually watching those fan uploads. So we're especially starting to see that a lot more with TikTok. Obviously, TikTok is a very popular platform, and there's a lot of music integrated into the platform. So it's always interesting to see when you know, people will take their TikTok videos and then upload it onto YouTube. And then, you know, again, we are able to get a lot of insights there. You know, we work with a lot of different artists and musicians in, you know, different countries across Asia. And one valuable thing that we look at is to see which countries their fan bases are coming from. Especially, you know, for example, K-pop, increasingly, it's obviously the fan bases are very global, but oftentimes our clients, the management in Korea, they don't even know where their fans are. So to be able to kind of then help share those type of insights with them, and then maybe help them, you know, either collaborate with an influencer in, let's say, Indonesia, for example. Things like that, I think, are really valuable things that every musician and artist should consider.
So talking about platforms, we actually have a question from one of our audience. The question is, you know, what are some of the emerging platforms that are there specifically for music, or is there any new tech that's, you know, there that connects fan in a deeper way? Would you know that?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's new, but TikTok is, you know, obviously it's becoming huge everywhere in the United States and all over Asia. I think that's actually a really important platform that people need to look at, because the way it's built, the engagement levels are so high. You don't just sit back and watch. You're actually lip syncing to a song, or you're dancing to a song. And like I said, oftentimes those TikTok videos will then end up on YouTube, or maybe they will end up on Instagram, for example. Because it's such short clips, I think those are really, I think that's why you'll see a lot of these things go viral. Now, in addition, partially because of TikTok's success, YouTube just recently rolled out a new feature called YouTube Shorts, and that happened maybe a couple months ago. And that, according to YouTube, has been growing quite fast in popularity. This is something that we highly, highly, highly recommend to all of our partners, because whenever YouTube is releasing a new tool or a new feature, they're really pushing it in their algorithm. So we saw similar things 3-4 years ago when YouTube first had YouTube Live, and if you were live streaming, you were oftentimes surfacing at the top of these search results, right? Someone will be searching for something, and then it'll be like, oh, by the way, Angel is streaming live right now, and they'll feature you. Similar things are happening with YouTube Shorts. Even when I go through my YouTube app, I'll see a lot of YouTube Shorts pop up, and I don't even subscribe to these channels. This is just YouTube really just pushing their new product. So that's something that we highly recommend.
Okay, very cool. So, I mean, I hear you to say that, you know, obviously, when a content goes viral, that is quite a good indication of engagement with audiences. And another question from our audience, Emmeline Chin, is what are some of the other indicators that you're doing that kind of shows that you're doing the right thing and engaging with your audience?
Yeah, I think, again, the great thing about these platforms, all these digital platforms, is you are able to get feedback. So you could see the data as to where the fans are and where your content is being consumed. But one thing that I really like to look at, and we tell our clients to look at as well, is the comment section, for example, right? Because that's where you really get a lot of feedback as to what your fans want. So I think the most successful musicians and even content creators, they do a really great job of actually answering some of the comments and posing new questions and having those sort of conversations. Those are things that really go a long way towards boosting engagement and really creating deeper relationships with the fans and the audience.
Very cool. And as you will agree, there are a lot of creators, and it is a busy place, in TikTok, where content is constantly going up. Would you have some tips and advice for emerging artists to how to cut through the noise and be able to have a deeper connection with their fan base?
Yeah, I think number one, it's important to really be active on a lot of platforms, right? I mean, that's a big part of it. You never know where your next new fan is going to come from, right? So you really need to be active on all the different social media platforms, and you never know where that entry point is going to be. So that's probably number one. Number two, as I mentioned, I think it's really important to be able to gain the valuable insights from the data and all that feedback, and then really just put it to use, right? I think nowadays, because there's so many tools and because there's so many platforms, I think it is really necessary to be able to take that and be more active with it. I understand that musicians are musicians, right? They're not marketers. But that's why I think it's also very important for musicians to work with, either their labels or their managers or, companies like us that can really maybe help handle a lot of the other things apart from creating content and producing music.
Okay, very cool. And I guess one last question for you, similar to what I asked Moy previously, you guys handle a lot of creators, and you see a lot of instances where artists are getting it right and where artists aren't really hitting the mark. Would you be able to share a little bit more of what you've seen so far, and those who got it right and those who haven't been there yet?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important to actually be active. I understand, a musician is different from a gamer, right? You can't be playing games and streaming games every day and creating content every day. It might be easier for gamers, but for musicians, even though you can't create a new song every day, I think there are other ways of, creating content or behind the scenes type of stuff, and to be active, because frankly, that's what the fans want to see too. Years ago, it was MTV, right? Kind of the TV networks, they did it all for you. They were the ones that showed kind of the behind the scenes stuff and the footage, and provided that platform for the musicians and the personalities to kind of come through. Well, nowadays, it's all these social media platforms and digital platforms that provide that, but it does require a little bit more work. You can't just sit back and have MTV film you. You got to play an active role, either you or your team or your manager or label.
Okay, so if I hear you, it's really about the consistency of putting out content to continually engage fans. Is that right?
Yeah. I think a buzzword I keep hearing over and over again is you got to increase the cadence of how. Basically, it's just that means put stuff out as frequently as possible. Right.
Okay, that's some really good advice. So thank you so much for joining us, Eugene. So we'd love to stay on the line, and as we bring Moy back on, we're going to have a bit of a group discussion. Hi, Moy, welcome back.
Hi, Eugene.
Hey, Moy, how's it going?
Yeah, thank you for having me back again.
Yeah, so good to see you guys. So we do have a couple of questions for you guys. I guess one question that we took from the audience is looking ahead. What are your thoughts about blockchain or NFT, specifically that you think that artists can kind of jump in on? Do you think it's a good idea right now? So maybe we'll ask this question to Moy first.
Oh, okay. This kind yeah, for NFT, I think we actually, to be honest with you guys, we learning at the moment with some of our artists at Rotterdam as well. So we're starting thinking about NFT, but we haven't really got like clear picture what we're going to do with the NFT thing. Because I think that now it's just for maybe for the those designer or who working on the art, but for the musician, for the artist, I think I still figured it out how to work with the NFT at the moment. I heard some of the band, they're working with the NFT, and then they have some very success scenario how to work with that. But I think we have to do kind of like, I would say it's kind of like hybrid between like NFT and like physical product as well in terms of doing with the musician, with the artist.
Okay, that's really
I
interesting. How
think
about you?
Eugene might be able to answer this question better than me, I think.
Yeah, I mean, our company, we've been looking into the blockchain space, especially with NFTs. It's obviously very much in the news nowadays. I think it's still very early. There's a lot of platforms out there, OpenSea, Rarible, there's a ton. And when it comes to our musicians and our music clients, when they come to us and ask us about what's going on with NFTs, what we say is it's still quite early. So it's hard to say which platform is the one you should go with. I personally think in a little bit there's going to be maybe some consolidation. There'll probably be a few major platforms, and the one area that I'm personally very interested in, and I think this is something that is very relevant for musicians, is in the future. I believe NFTs are going to be also include the underlying copyright. So right now, if you buy an NFT, typically you're just buying like a digital collectible, right? It's essentially like a gold record, and maybe there's like 10 of them, but it doesn't mean you get a piece of the royalties, right? But I do see from time to time some of these music related companies, they're actually exploring NFTs where it includes the underlying copyright. I think this area is going to be really huge. If you can imagine potentially like an artist or a musician maybe selling a percentage of their rights, or maybe outright selling their masters via an NFT. I think that's an area that is really interesting and something to look out for.
Okay, that's really insightful. Thank you so much for sharing that. So as we kind of look ahead, now we're going to look backwards a little bit. What advice would you kind of give your 16-year-old selves, as you kind of on hindsight look at the development of everything with creators, musicians, artists? So I'm going to throw this question to Moy first.
Yeah, I think I always say to young musician that you have to be like single-minded. You have to work very hard, and you have to keep doing it. As I mentioned, if you want to make it in the music industry, it's a really long journey. Be prepared for failure again, because it's a part of your journey, and you have to work very hard until where you get to recognition from those major label or record labels. So you have to be honest with yourself, keep doing what you believe in, and maybe try to do something unique. I think that's the key.
Okay, very cool. And Eugene, over to you.
16-year-old self. I would probably tell my 16-year-old self to maybe study a little bit less and go outside and, enjoy the outdoors a little bit more. But also, back then it was, this was before the internet. So I would probably say, one thing looking back, I wish maybe I was a little bit earlier in getting more familiar, I guess, with these digital platforms and the crazy, wonderful things that happen on the internet. Yeah, I think that's what I would say. I would tell myself.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, I mean, definitely first mover advantage definitely helps with that, especially with technology. And there's a question specifically for you, Eugene. And one of the audience is asking that they've read in the news about Collab being a top agency in SEA, and a lot of it's related to management and brand deals. Are there new revenue models that Collab is leading or exploring in the way in this particular industry?
Yeah, so I mean, what we do at the end of the day is whether it's a creator, content creator, or an influencer, or even a musician, we just try to help them make as much money as possible, right? So one way is working with brands and doing those brand deals. A lot of brands and agencies, they are all increasing their digital advertising budgets. They're all increasing their influencer marketing budgets. So we try to connect those brands and those budgets with our creators and even our musicians. So that's number one. Number two is really via the YouTube platform. YouTube is still probably the best platform when it comes to monetizing your content at scale. As of right now, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, they don't really have a revenue share model like YouTube does. So what we do is really help our content creators receive every penny that they should be receiving from the YouTube platform. Some of that includes growing the channel and increasing the views to the channel. But some of that also includes doing copyright management. So like I alluded to earlier, some of the top TikTokers that we work with, we help them make money from all their re-uploads on YouTube. So that's actually kind of a big active area for us lately.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that needs to be talked about a lot more. We'll leave it for the next session. And another question that we have from the audience from David Bonomi to Eugene and Moy. Do you have a rough split between artists who say are singers or musicians versus DJ? And specifically, David wants to know, are there more DJs joining your company? And if so, what kind of dance music do you see it as a trend? Moy, would you like to take that first?
Okay. Yeah. To be honest, in what the dark is our company, I never ever have a chance to work with a DJ. So we based on band, indie band or pop music. So I don't really have the idea of how you like splitting between the DJ and musician. But I think my best guess is I think a DJ is like the same thing as maybe a musician, like a good musician. So that's how they would split with the singer. That's my best guess. I'm sorry because we never have a chance to work with a DJ.
All good. And what about Eugene?
We also don't work with too many DJs. We do work more just with kind of musicians creating original music. The tricky thing with DJs is oftentimes they're remixing other people's music, right? So especially on YouTube, for example, if you're, let's say remixing someone else's song, you actually can't receive revenue from it. The way that YouTube system works is actually sends the revenue to the original, I guess, creator of the song. So because of that, we actually don't work with too many DJs, although in Indonesia recently, starting from last year, what we have done is, we have our own DJ Lucu, basically remix our other client songs and then put it on TikTok. And we organically have tried, or we have organically seeded and created some of these kind of dance challenges and stuff like that on TikTok. So that's about as much maybe of the work that we've done with DJs so far.
Okay, very cool. And I guess a question that's a little bit more personal, for you, what is the best thing about your job that you absolutely love? And do you have any advice for any young music executives wanting to be the next Eugene, Choi, and create Collab Asia?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that I enjoy the most is also maybe the thing I hate the most, and that's how quickly everything changes. It's fun and exciting to see all these new platforms come out, all this new technology, and stuff like blockchain and NFTs. There's always something new coming out, and that's really exciting. Every day is a little different, and stuff we're doing now is quite different from what we were doing 2 years ago. It also is tough, right? I mean, just every day, just trying to keep up with the news and things that's happening in the industry is really tough. So yeah, that's kind of the good and the bad.
Okay, very cool. And Moy, how about you? What's the best thing about your job, and any advice to any kind of young executives who wants to kickstart their own record label?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm quite lucky. I'm lucky enough to be able to work with all very super talented people every day, because I can't think of any industry, and I love to be involved with the making creative process. I love to be involved in the journey of the artist. So I'm quite lucky to not just only working with the artists. I also have a chance to work with all those very incredible talented people from like music video, or maybe those creator, or graphic designer, and mostly that's why that's keep me working in the music industry as well. And for those young executive, I think I think it's a good time for everyone now with the technology and with the all the platform that waiting for you. So I mean, if you want to start your own music label, I think it's a time to start it now. But be smart with the investment, because again, it's a long journey. So you have to be smart with that as well.
Okay, take it slow. It is a long journey.
Yeah.
Good advice. Okay, thank you so much, guys. Moy, thank you so much for joining us from Thailand, and Eugene, thank you so much for joining us in Seoul, even though it's Thanksgiving over for you. So thank you so much for joining us in this great conversation, and I'm gonna hand it back to Jasper.
Thank you, Angel. Now, can I say what a brilliant session, but also what a brilliant piece of moderating. So, Angel, you are now full-time. I'm going to take some time off. You're going to come and look after the whole academy for the next 3 or 4 months. Brilliant stuff. Some great learnings from there, from Moy and from Eugene. But really, the message was, get out there. It's not coming to you. The fans ain't coming to you. Get out. That lovely line, increase the cadence. Be single-minded and work hard. Don't give up. Keep going. So thank you again to Angel, to Moy, and to Eugene. I've got 2 more sessions today. Later this afternoon, the wonderful Bhuvan Bam, BB Vines, and his manager Rohit, talking about how to build a community of tens of millions of fans. And it's not just building them, but keeping them and talking to them the whole time. So come back in on that. The agenda's on the Music Matters Academy website. And then later this afternoon after that, we have the Facebook Music joined by VS Media and Believe. Now, if you want to meet Moy and Eugene, just go back onto the agenda on the website, and you can click in the session, and we'll be there to ask them questions and have another chat with them. That'll happen pretty much right away. But yeah, again, thank you so much, and we'll see you all a little bit later.